إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستهديه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. يقول الحق سبحانه وتعالى في كتابه المبين بعد أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم: يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله حق تقاته ولا تموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون. Praise and glory be to God, the cherisher, sustainer, and king of the worlds, and peace and blessings be upon his noble prophets and messengers. Miracles. When I was growing up as a young boy, I used to enjoy very much sitting down and listening to my father recount stories, the prophets. And the stories that fascinated me the most, the stories that really resonated with me, are those that involved miracles. Stories that were out of this world, stories that were beyond the imagination. Now, as humans, we are fascinated by these stories. The X-Men, the Spider-Man, the Batman. For some reason, these stories that allow us to push the boundaries of our imagination, we are fascinated by these stories. Now, generally speaking, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sends a messenger or a prophet to a people, one of the questions that people are going to ask is, so what makes you better than us? What makes you a prophet and not us? And so Allah equips his messengers, his prophets, with signs, with powers, with miracles, so that they can answer that very question. Now, Prophet Musa alayhi salatu wasalam, Prophet Moses, was sent to a people when the prodigy of the time, the thing of the time, was magic. And so when the sorcerers threw their sticks and their ropes, which started to move like snakes, Moses threw his staff, his stick, which transformed into a serpent and ate all the other sticks and ropes. Magic. And when Moses and his people were running away from Pharaoh and his soldiers, he took his staff when he was faced with the sea, and he was able to make the sea part. And so they ran in between. They got to the other side, and when Pharaoh and his soldiers started to go through, the sea collapsed in on itself. Now, Prophet Jesus, alayhi salatu wasalam, he was sent to a people at a time where the prodigy was healing, medicine. And so the miracle of Jesus was exactly that. He could heal the sick, the blind, and the lepers by Allah's permission. Now, when my father started to tell me about the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, when he introduced me to the Prophet Muhammad, the first question I had was, what was his miracle? And so my dad explained, well, Prophet Muhammad was sent to a people where the prodigy of the time was their language, Arabic. It's a mystical, powerful, and rich language, and the Arabs had mastered it. They were artists and poets, magicians with the word. And so the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam came with a book, the Qur'an, which challenged the Arabs to produce something like unto it. And when the Arabs read it, he said to me, They said, this must be from God. We cannot produce something like this. This is at another level. Now, as a child, you can appreciate that I enjoyed the Prophet's story, the Prophet Muhammad's story. I liked it. But as a child, it didn't resonate very strongly with me. Because you had magic, a magical staff on one hand, you had healing powers on the other, and then you had a book. So I preferred the other stories. Now, as I started to grow up and to learn the Arabic language and grammar, I started to read it, and I was like, wow, this is quite powerful. This is really impressive, and I can appreciate what the Arabs are talking about. This is quite impressive. But unfortunately, the prodigy of today is not linguistics and language. The prodigy of today is science and technology. And so as I continued to grow, I coincidentally stumbled upon a book in my father's library entitled The Bible, the Qur'an, and Modern Science by Maurice Bucaille. And I read this book and I was dumbfounded. Wow. Because I started to read the book thinking, I would like to compare what my book, the Qur'an, has to say about what we are finding today. And I found that it was in line with our recent scientific discoveries, all written in a way that anybody could understand. And so I was really impressed. It really, really struck me. And so I took this and I went to my friends, I went to my teachers, and I told them about this because I was so impressed. And therein lies another miracle of the Qur'an, that it is a book of miracles. The linguistic miracle, the language miracle, the scientific miracle, it is a book of miracles. And that is a miracle in and of itself. Now, as I continued to grow and experience life, I got married, I got kids, I stumbled upon a third miracle, which really captured my heart. And to understand this third miracle, I need to give you a context of Arabia at the time. I need to give you a context of when the Qur'an was revealed. Now, the Qur'an was revealed at a time through people who were living in the middle of the desert. They were Bedouins, it was sandy. Many had to travel all the time to get to food and water. It was hot. It was a challenging life. And many other peoples around the world considered the Arabs, these Bedouins, useless, right? And so the Persians, for example, as they were expanding their empire, they came across the Arabs and they said, you know what? We're going to pass them by. We're not going to conquer these people. Why make the investment? The investment of conquering these people is not worth it. Right? Going to establish a kingdom here or a colony to conquer what? The sand? It's not worth it. The Romans did the same thing. They passed the Arabs by as well. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He did not pass them by. And in the span of 23 years, the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam set the scene for one of the biggest empires the world has seen, from India, China, all the way to Europe. In 23 years, he was able to transform these nobodies into somebodies that led humanity. How was he able to do that? The Qur'an. With the Qur'an, he was able to transform these people whom others considered useless into somebodies. He was able to take somebody like Umar ibn al-Khattab, a man whom history would have never remembered, a man who buried his own daughter, a man who made his own God out of dates, ate it, and then says, I went to the toilets and excreted it. The Qur'an was able to transform this man into one of the 100 most influential people to walk this earth, not by Muslim standards, not by Muslim scholars. This is not what Muslim scholars say. This is what Western scholars are saying. In Michael H. Hart's book, The 100, Umar ibn al-Khattab is considered one of these 100 most influential people to walk this earth. How? With the Qur'an. And so this is a book that you and I can take. Nobody's. But if we implement it, we can transform ourselves into somebody's. We are the miracle of the Qur'an. You and I, brothers and sisters. And so today we read about the miracle of Moses. We read about it, but we don't have it. We cannot see it. We read about the miracle of Jesus, but where is it today? It's not here. But if you want to read about the miracle of Muhammad, we have it. We have it with us today, and it is a miracle that will stay with us until the end of times. A miracle that started with a word, Iqra, read. A miracle that has a linguistic aspect to it. It has a scientific aspect to it, but it also has a transformative aspect to it. The next time you want to see the miracle of Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, look in the mirror and you will see it. أقول قولي هذا أستغفر الله لي ولكم ولسائر المسلمين فاستغفروه إنه هو التواب الرحيم.